everyone. How is your Sunday going? So it's Saturday. It's Saturday. How is your Saturday going? Well, it's Sunday, probably in Australia or something. We're about to start our live unlocking behavior production, but let me just. I hope you are all doing well and you are excited to hear from us and hearing about behavior production. Isn't that interesting? Doesn't it sound like quite a thing that we will talk about? Give us just a second for the invite to come through so Miranda can join us and we can talk. Thank you everyone for joining, and thank you everyone for waiting. It always takes just a second for the invite to come through. Let's have a look once again. It's looking good. Here we go. Fantastic.
There we go.
Hi. Hi, Miranda. Thank you for joining us.
Yep. This is my favorite topic. So let's go.
Let's go. Thank you for being here. And I just want to quickly mention that please, everyone watching live, please do ask your questions. We will make sure to answer them all. And as well, just leave comments, just have a, give us some reactions. We would love it to be quite an interactive experience. So please go ahead. And
the best way to enjoy these things, right, is if it's more interactive.
Exactly. So please do if you want to. We would love to hear that. And if you're watching a replay or you have to catch the replay, that's totally fine as well. It will be saved. It will be. It is recorded, so you will be able to watch it back or watch it as a replay, and then you can ask questions as well. We will make sure to come back to them. But let's go. Actually, let's go to the live and to the topic. Or actually, Miranda, you quite recently joined Tromplo, so please share with us just a little bit about you. Introduce yourself to everyone watching who might not be yet familiar with you, but I think they might be very, very soon. If they don't, maybe a lot of people might already know you, but still, can you introduce yourself and share a little bit about your journey into positive reinforcement training?
Yeah, and for such a big question, I will try to be brief. But basically, I got my start quite young in positive reinforcement training. I always wanted to be an animal trainer. That's never actually changed for me from my very, very earliest memories, 6, 7 years old. First it was dolphins. I wanted to train dolphins. But I got my start 17 years ago training with positive reinforcement with dogs. So I got my start at first training a puppy, and we went on to compete in agility, which was the first sport I ever dabbled into. And I just kept going. I've always had this career in animal training that very soon became experiences in rescue, behavior rehabilitation. I worked with a lot of aggression in dogs, dog reactivity with dogs. I got my main start with dogs, but over the years, especially in the last 10 years, I've really been working with one-on-one as a behavior consultant, and very quickly branched out to working with other animals, which was something I always wanted to do. So 17 years later, since I got my start, I am very, very, very happy to say that I've had a lot of experience with working with multiple species, which I really, really love, because it's all the same applied science at the end of the day, and which is really ties back with our main topic here, which is behavior production and what that means to me. Which is really, it's just the meat and potatoes of what I love to do, and I love to have a relationship with animals built around that. So it's really, really fun, and I've been doing it for a while, and I'm super excited to be teaching my sort of like baby master class, which is this course that I'm doing first with Tromplo. I'm really excited to be doing it with Tromplo to sort of reach Tromplo's audience, which I think is a really good connection given how geeky I think Tromplo's audience is, And I think that's just a really good combination together. So I'm super excited to be bringing that to Tromplo.
And we are so excited to have you. Your energy and your inspiration already speaks through. So I really can't wait to see where the course will.
All about it. This is my whole life, really.
Absolutely. And that's fantastic to see. And so you mentioned the behavior production, but can you just take a moment and explain, what do you mean by behavior production?
Yes, I can. So behavior production to me, and what I mean when I talk about behavior production, is really the entire umbrella of what's involved when we're teaching an animal something new for the first time, or we're teaching the animal something that they're physically able to do, but we want to be able to teach them how to do something in a specific way and on cue, in cooperation with us. So behavior production really the whole umbrella of what behavior production means to me is everything to do from that point of, I want to teach my animal something new to perform on cue or what have you. That's the entirety of what I'm all about. So, and where it falls in the sort of more holistic framework of animal training behavior does start at the place where an animal is able to cooperate and engage. So I think about it in terms of where creating new behaviors for an animal falls in the humane hierarchy, which is sort of after health and medical issues have been addressed, after welfare needs are being met, and at the point where an animal is really healthy, behaviorally sound, they feel secure, and they're ready to engage with you to really learn brand new behaviors, which is I think a small part of the overall picture, but a really, really fun one, and a way to engage with our animals and continue to build a relationship based around that conversation when you're teaching an animal new skills.
Fantastic. I love that you mentioned, well, first of all, you know, it is actually a smaller part. It's not the only part, but it is a part of life. But as well, it really creates the bond that can really create a fantastic relationship with the animals we work with. And when you were talking about the behavior production as this whole picture, what it reminded me for some reason is what Dr. Goldiamond said, is that we ask ourselves, where do we start and where do we go from here? So for me, it was like when you mentioned that, it's like that's the behavior production, the starting point, and where do we go? The whole map of the
yeah, absolutely.
You want to teach. Fantastic. And could you share an example of a behavior that you taught like as a behavior production, from the behavior production lens, because we're talking about a holistic view of teaching behavior? And is any example comes to mind that could be quite you know, that could put a visual to what we are talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the best example, or what comes to mind for me right now, especially having mentioned where the kind of behavior production falls in this holistic framework, is with my horse that I'm working with right now. I started a kind of open project where people can follow along my journey. In fact, having a horse that I obtained that had a problematic behavior past in the training program that they were brought up in, so they started having difficulty there, was kind of early retired, came to me, and I've been working with him now for about 5 months, and we've kind of just started really getting to that place where we've ticked those boxes of health and welfare and meeting his needs, to now I'm working with a brand new animal that is at that place where he can really readily engage and learn new behaviors. So really right now we're working on introducing more precision and fluency in his response to introducing new cues. And so we're really starting to get precise in the behaviors that don't necessarily have to do with health and welfare, but is the sort of product of what we've done so far, making sure we've ticked off all those boxes. And now we're getting and now I have a really great partner to work with, and we're starting to build these really quite quickly impressive, I think, behaviors that I don't think it's super obvious or common to a lot of people, just how quickly and fluently and precise you can get behaviors from the right away. And in fact, something that I really talk about and I try to teach about is you can start your behavior production plan by having progress right away. And in fact, if you start your behavior production approach and you're not getting the results that you've planned for right away, there is a way to do that. So, and that approach is really what I like to talk about and teach about, because there is a way to do that. I know Tromplo really talks a lot about and supports education around what's called errorless learning or minimal error learning. And really that's what it's really all about for me as well, is starting those behavior production plans with immediate success. It's stress-free for you, stress-free for the animal, and you just get a really good communication. It's a really good conversation to have with your animal, and there's ways to do it with those things in mind, errorless learning. But my probably biggest example, or what comes to mind right now, is what I'm doing with my horse right now for the first time and getting those results.
Yes.
Is that your question, or maybe you want to too far off the rails there? Think about my horse. I'm very pragmatic.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for sharing your story with Buddy, and thank you for having it open for everyone to check. And I think that it's you mentioned something really great. That when you were talking about your story with Buddy, what it reminded me, the first thing was that training happens all the time. You have to, like the very first thing that you've been doing as well was the medical and the welfare bits, and the training at the beginning. It might as you mentioned, there's the starting point, and then it builds up. So sometimes it might look very different from the end goal, but it's all training, and it's all getting you there. And the thing that I like the most in your message is that is the fact that you mentioned that the progress happened immediately, like. Yeah, and you see the progress. And it's such an important message to come across. To get across. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Go ahead.
Because that's really what I see a lot of people struggle with, and I think a lot of people, especially new to the concept of shaping, I see a lot of people struggle with that. And really, the difference that I'm talking about is there is a way, there is a route to the sort of arrangement and approach to starting a new shaping plan with a particular animal in your particular situation and conditions, that you can get that progress immediately. And there's a lot of other ways that you can struggle around, but there's a particular way you can approach it that does get you what you're looking for right away. And that finding that route is really what I talk a lot about, and I want to teach more people about, because that's really, it's something that you can obtain. And if people are doing a lot of struggling around shaping, my message that I would like for them to hear is to stop. There is a different way. There is a more successful way that you can approach this, and that's really what I hope to teach more people about all the time. Like, I think about that all the time, because that's what I do with my animals. So I know there's a way, and but it can be so much less struggle for people. I want them to know that, and
yes,
it's not as much struggle for them. It's a lot less struggle for the animals as well. So, and that's a really important feedback loop, because if you're frustrated, your animal is frustrated, and you're just going to get more and more frustrated. There is a better way. and I want more people to be able to experience that for themselves.
I love that. It's such a fantastic message to get across, and so inspiring, because it's like there is a way, like, to get it across, that it's not, it's not about you and your training or your animal, and nothing is faulty. There is a way that you can tap into, that you can find, that will get you to where you want to go. Sometimes it's just simple as that. Sometimes as trainers, we might struggle. We might be great trainers, and then there will be some point that we struggle to see, that we struggle to see their way. But that's why we take courses. That's why we ask other people, because it's normal. It doesn't mean that you are a bad trainer if you can't find the way. It just means that that you didn't come across that way, or you don't see it in the same way as someone else might see it if they see your training. There might be something missing.
Absolutely. And that's really, I think, the central point is, you can think that an approach to teaching your animal something new inherently involves a bit of struggle and conflict and confusion. I don't want people to be thinking like that. I want people to think that they can have it all, and again, get right out the gate without having that sort of confusion, conflict, where it doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't have to be that way right from the get-go. So yeah, I would like for more people to give themselves permission to feel and associate themselves that training your animals does not have to be frustrating. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to have that conflict there. There is a way that it can be fun for you and your animal all the time. That's what I want people to know.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's absolutely amazing. Yeah, let's have the fun with the training. And I want to remind everyone, if you have any comments, questions, please share them, or share them later in the recording as well, or send us a message. But please do that. Now it's your chance, and we will be more than happy to respond to any questions or comments. And I would like to actually ask you about the course that you are writing, because it's a 3-part course. And so just let us know, tell us how did this course came about?
Yeah, so the inspiration behind this course really is all that we've kind of talked about so far, in that I see a lot of trainers, and whether they're kind of new to these concepts, but even older trainers, who've been doing this for a while, I see them kind of get stuck when it comes to teaching a brand new behavior that they may have never taught before. And it kind of just confounds me, because I know a lot of trainers are so competent, and they already have the sort of pieces to know how to teach, for example, a brand new behavior that they've never done before. But I see them getting stuck in being able to apply those things. I see, trainers constantly looking for those specific methods of how do I teach that? Or they see something and they're like, how do I teach that? And they don't know. I don't believe it's because they don't have the sufficient knowledge necessarily, but there's something in between that's stopping them from being able to sort of perceive what they already know and apply it in these new ways. So what I really wanted to do was to reach those kind of trainers and people who are struggling to teach brand new behaviors that they may never have taught before, and give them that new, really challenge their perception of how to apply these things that they may already know to teaching brand new behaviors in animals. And that also includes teaching brand new species of animals that they may have never worked with before. So this entire sort of, like I said, sort of just like my baby, like my master course of all about behavior production, is the inspiration behind what became the 3-part Tromplo course to be the 6-week different programs. But it all comes from the same central idea of, if I were to create something that answered the question, how to train any animal anything, that's what this is all about. I've put everything in there to answer that question into this originally, holistic course. And yeah, it's a big one. Yes. I really did include everything from start to finish in it, and really, again, from the perception of, let's get more independent trainers out there who don't have to ask that question anymore. You know, I think, again, there's a lot of people who have those knowledge and have those skills. They're just having a roadblock in applying it. So for me, it's about sort of challenging the perception and really increasing confidence, because I know imposter syndrome is a big one, I think, when it comes to animal training, whether it's, you know, someone who trains dogs who doesn't feel confident in their skills to maybe start teaching a cat. Something that, again, they have the skills, they have the knowledge, but there's some kind of roadblock in there for them, or even as simple as learning a new sport, a new dog sport, for example. So this is really the roadblock that I've identified, you know, having watched and see what goes on in all my time, that I really just wanted to, like, let's just break that down. Let's just get rid of that roadblock. So that's really the inspiration behind this course. And I'm really looking forward to people learning how true that is when we get into this course and start challenging that perception.
Yeah. So fantastic, and I love this visual that you just shared, that, you know, there's so many trainers experience roadblock that is like, you know, like as you mentioned, sometimes it might be like, how do I teach this new behavior, or as you mentioned, it's like there is a new species and it, at the beginning it sounds like, oh my god, there is, I don't know what to do, and there is actually a science and methods that can help all of us, you know, like I bet everyone had this experience at some point. Some people might have gotten through it but some people, you know, we still experience that, and but there is a way to walk around this, you know, and to learn how to, as you mentioned, just avoid this roadblock, so it doesn't even happen. It doesn't even have to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. I could tell you a little bit about what goes into each part, if you like.
That's exactly what I thought about asking. Can you please share the 3 parts, which is, I think, the first time it happened in Tromplo. We have 2-part courses, but I'm not sure if we ever had a 3-part. So please share all of them. A little bit more about the 3 parts.
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that too, because when I originally developed the all that would be included in this originally entire course, and started to develop it for the Tromplo 6-week framework, originally I did have it in 2 parts, but I don't like to compromise on anything. So it became 3 parts to really be able to benefit and be comprehensive to people. I didn't want to have to overlap too much of the sort of knowledge and skills piece with the hands-on application. So that's sort of why it became from one whole course that would never have fit into 6 weeks to 2 to now 3, and making each of those parts sort of fall into a point. I actually, when I originally developed the 3 parts, it became about answering, again, the questions related to this title concept, how to train any animal anything. If I wanted someone to be able to know how to train any animal anything, for me, that prompts questions. How, why, what, for example. So in part 1, I have it written down, because it's a lot. I could never have it in my brain at all. So really, part 1, it's largely theoretical. Again, for anyone taking this course, you don't have to know anything about animal training to start at the beginning. So that was important to me to have it be really comprehensive. So right away in part 1, it is actually challenging the perception of what behavior is, because that is actually part of that roadblock that I'm talking about, is how people perceive behavior and subsequently how they perceive trying to teach new ones. I think there's a lot of considerations there that people don't necessarily take into account. So right away, we start by defining what behavior is and ways to perceive it that actually can aid us or hurt us in being able to break down a new behavior production plan. So we look at what behavior is, we look at challenging your perception of what it is, we look at motivation, things like value. We deep dive into what reinforcement is. We deep dive into what reinforcement could be and how to identify and assess these things in your particular learner. That's why this entire course is built around just literally how to train any animal, anything, whether it's different species or different individuals. There is an approach to assessing all of these things that you should know how to consider and then answer to be able to reach your goals. So a deep dive into reinforcement, we look at behavior contingencies, so the ABCs. We look at a kind of advanced idea of what those ABCs can be and where those ABCs can fit into time. A lot of people think of when we're talking about ABCs, we're looking at antecedent behavior consequence. A lot of people, when they're just learning this for the first time, they may see it as a very static step-by-step loop, when there's a kind of visualization concept that looks at it as more of a river, how A, B's, and C's are happening concurrently. And really, the being able to start to perceive behavior in more of that fluid way is another really, really big difference I see in trainers who are able to understand and perceive behavior in these different ways that starts to break down those roadblocks. One of those, actually a really, really main primary difference I see in trainers who are able to, maybe they can train a behavior, maybe they can get a behavior, or there's trainers who can get a behavior and that is really nice, it's really precise, it's really fluent, they get it quickly, the animal is on it, so I kind of make a distinction between behavior and wow behavior. And for me, a big part of that comes down to what happens in the bridge. And I see a lot of trainers not really think about that. So we go into a kind of deep dive meta-analysis, is what I'm calling it, into what happens in the bridge. I call it the power of the bridge, right? Because that can really, right away, if you change nothing else about your animal training, identifying what you're actually doing in the bridge can have that world of difference. And then also in part one, we look at, again, that humane hierarchy considerations of what we're actually talking about and what we have to consider before we're even looking at behavior production. So concepts like consent, engagement, choice, and making sure that we're ticking off those boxes of our animals' welfare, because there's no place really ethically to be trying to teach a new behavior if we're not starting from a really ethical place of fulfilled welfare. There's some overlap, but that's part of what we talked about in the course, isn't it? But it is important for me, for people to understand that when we're talking about behavior production, and for me, behavior production and animal training are kind of one and the same label. I might not call meeting an animal's welfare needs animal training. I think it is all training, like we talked about. You're always trained. Let's change that verbiage a bit. Not necessarily we're always training, but an animal is certainly always learning. So that is an important piece, and is definitely really, really beneficial and powerful, so long as we're aware of that and aware of how they're always learning, so we can act appropriately. But for me, again, animal training is really something that comes after, in a sort of ethical place, where we're also making sure we're looking at behaviors that aren't contraindicative to an animal's welfare, right? So I talk a lot about behavior production, how to train any animal anything. When I say how to train any animal anything, under that anything label, we're talking about behaviors that aren't going to contraindicative. Is that a word? Is that the right word I'm using? We don't want to be teaching our animals something that's going to go against their welfare. That's not what it's about. So we do look at those considerations, and that all that I talked about is already all in part one and more. But I will tell you though, the meat and potatoes of animal behavior production, and what I really am talking about when it comes to the roadblocks that I see, even in advanced trainers who are still going and kind of seeking out how to train specific skills, because they can't get around that, really happens in part two for me. So in part two, we really start to deep dive into the shaping. We look at the training plan. We look at one of my favorite, and here's probably right under what happens in the bridge for me as far as changing that perception and being able to train animals, behaviors from, a behavior to something really impressive, is looking at behavior as a physical skill. So we talk a lot about that. And just again, as one of those changes in perception or paradigm shifts that if you can take on, and we challenge that in part 2 and part 1, if you can take it on, it can really make another night and day difference in your behavior production plans and approach. So, and then of course, we're also looking at production techniques. So literally part 2 is really about, okay, you know how to train your animals, you know what you're looking for, you know what considerations to make. Now let's look at, I want to train X behavior, never trained it before in my life, maybe never worked with the species in my life. I know they're physically able to do it, and I know it's not contraindicative to their welfare or their physical health. Now what do I do? That's all in part 2. So it's really, really, really getting into the fun stuff, because again, this is the stuff that I see people who could do it, but they're getting stuck. And I think, again, one of those big roadblocks where they are getting stuck is they just don't know. They don't know how to get an animal to do something that they've never done before or that they've never taught before. We also look at troubleshooting all of that, and we go a bit beyond production. When I talk about behavior production, I do mean kind of what I said about where we're starting from an animal who's never done this behavior before and how to get them to doing that behavior. But we also want to look at, okay, maybe now we can do it in the training room. Where do we actually want to be able to have that behavior, though, too, right? It's not just about producing behavior, but it is one part of a larger picture of what our end goals are. So we look at kind of beyond production. We can call it proofing or generalizing, and those considerations for, that really come under our end goal. Because again, I don't just not make compromises in developing the course. I want people to give themselves permission to not make compromises in what goals and what heights they can really reach in training their animals, in their relationship, and their end goals, and what that can actually look like. I talk about what I came across not even too long ago, but the power of end. And what I mean by that is, people, whether they know it or not, they make sort of compromises. They say, well, I want my dog or whatever animal to do this, but, and then they go through this kind of list of why they can't achieve something. This was explained to me, and this is just a good holistic concept that I just want all audience members to know of anyway, because the way it was actually explained to me, and I wish I could give credit to where I actually heard this, but the example was someone who said to their dad, I want to live in New York, but I want a dog. And the lesson there, the power of and, was why not both? Why not I want to live in New York and have a dog? And that, to me, I took that on immediately as far as relating it back to behavior production, because if you're making compromises like, I want this behavior, but I know it's not going to be very speedy, or I want this behavior, but it's not going to be very precise. No. You're going to have it all, because again, there is a way to do it, and I don't want people to be limiting themselves, which is really, again, one of those barriers that we talk about breaking through, as far as I think people make those compromises because they don't have the skills yet. That's okay, but you can learn those skills, and I would like you to have those skills. So part 2 is really, again, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to, I think, really inspire that, again, paradigm shift and breaking those roadblocks down for people who have even been training for a long, long time. And I've seen that. I've been able to have enough of that experience of talking and teaching trainers who've been doing this for a long time, they've never thought of seeing things this way. So I know it's really exciting, and it's exciting for me to think about introducing more and more people to, because it's like this, right? And part three had to come because I didn't want to compromise. I didn't want to, smush all this together. I really want people to benefit week by week. So we ended up sort of brainstorming in the Tromplo team and adding a part three to it where we can have learned all these new knowledge and skills. And then part three is more of a coaching week-to-week format where now we can look at, okay, you have your animal learner, you have the skills, you have the considerations we've gone over in parts 1 and 2. Now let's do it. Let's do it together so you can really leave after part 1, 2, and 3 knowing how to answer how to train any animal anything. That's really important to me. And that's just something that we're totally going to accomplish for the people who are interested in this course. Yeah, it's quite a big answer, isn't it? It took a while.
But it is a huge course that, as you say, it will really people will really benefit from it. There's so many things that go into it. You've really done a great job of like really bringing all of the concepts together, like in a step-by-step, in a really comprehensive way that can really make such a huge difference in the way we train animals and we approach new animals that we train and we approach new behaviors that we want to train. And it really takes a little bit more time. It won't fit in 6 weeks, of course.
I would never.
Yeah, exactly.
When I set out to make this course as like really the thing I wanted to be able to answer was, for one thing, it was that barrier between what am I doing where I don't have those roadblocks. When I started working, for example, when I moved on from dogs to including other species of animal in what I did and in my practice, I didn't have those hang-ups and barriers that I saw other people going through. So the more and more I did it, and the more that I experienced having those skills and considerations, the more that I recognize that this is a missing piece for a lot of people. So how do I really bring this together in a central concept to give to other people? Because that's what I saw was missing. I wanted to make something that literally answered that question, start to finish, no compromises. I'm not about compromises. So yeah, no, it's a big one. I didn't cut corners. we're not corners.
Fantastic. And I think everyone listening should go ahead and go into the link in bio in Tromplo. We have the course there. So please go ahead and click and sign up, because it's really something that could really influence your training and all of the animals under your care. All of the animals. If you have one species that you predominantly work with, but you have another one that you just didn't even think about training, like a guinea pig or something, go ahead. There are so many things that you can learn and apply right away. So yeah. I highly recommend it.
It's so fun too. It's so fun. I talk to people too. This is part of the inspiration, really, that really just they get frustrated. They love their animal. They are such good caretakers. They're so ethical and they care so much. They take care of all their animals' needs. And they actually feel bad because they can't train tricks or whatever way they put it. It actually makes them feel bad,
yes.
Which is terrible because, for one thing, it's not necessarily about that. You don't have to know how to do this stuff to be a wonderful caretaker, for example. But also, it doesn't have to be frustrating. In fact, it shouldn't be frustrating. It's actually, like we kind of mentioned in the beginning, it's such a great addition to what you can do and how you can build your relationship with your animal. It does not have to be frustrating. It does not have to be a conflict. And for me, what's inspiring and motivating is kind of part of that, like, sadness of a loss of what people can do and experience with their animals through behavior production that I just want more people to have and not be stressed about it. It shouldn't be stressful. It is a beautiful addition. And there is a way to start changing your perhaps negative emotional response to sitting in front of your animal, wanting to train them, but getting stuck, right? So I want more people to have what I have. I don't know. What can I say?
Yeah, and it sounds super, super inspiring. So please, everyone, if you don't want to feel frustrated with when you're about to work with your animal, go ahead and join Miranda's course,
Do it.
How to Train Any Animal, Anything. So go ahead and please join, because it's a really good one. So thank you so much, Miranda. We've been talking for almost 40 minutes.
I just noticed. That's crazy.
I hope everyone enjoyed just as much as I did. Thank you for taking the time to joining us here on Tromplo Live. This was so much fun, and I really hope people got a lot from it. I saw a few heart reactions, so thank you so much for doing that. It was great to have you here, and as I said, keep on texting us if you have anything, and we hope to see you on the course.
Yes, I am really looking forward to you guys. I know, like, I can't just say, I can't convince you maybe if you haven't done it, but I'm so looking forward to the people who do join now and go through the 3 parts with me, because you're going to be the lucky ones. I know I can't just say it now, but, for the people who are going to learn that, you're going to be the lucky ones. What can I say?
Absolutely.
Anyway, keep on my camera. This is great.
I agree. Yes, thank you. And take care. Have a lovely rest of the day. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.